Every 20 or 30 years, a car comes along that defines its brand. Whether it was the original 911 or a Mini Cooper or a Honda Civic or even the original Lexus LS, these cars set the direction for their companies for the future. What happens when today the world's largest car manufacturer decides to finally build a battery electric vehicle, a proper one? Let's have a look.
What we have here is arguably the most important car for Lexus since they launched as a brand over 30 years ago. This isn't some petrol car dressed up as an EV. Oh no, this is their first ground-up car built on a dedicated EV platform. Housing a 71 kilowatt-hour battery pack mounted under the floor to keep the center of gravity low, it sends 230 kilowatts to all four very sexy wheels. This is a car that is striking to look at from any angle, even with its aerodynamic Pikachu it is. But this is still a Lexus, so it's all wrapped up in a beautiful and plush interior. Lexus say that fully EV is their future, and that by 2035, they'll only be selling battery electric vehicles. Is this the awakening of the sleeping Toyota giant previously focused solely on hybrids while still retaining that renowned Lexus driving experience? Let's take it for a drive and find out.
It's very quiet in here. 0 to 100 kilometers an hour comes up in just over 5 seconds. But what belies that number is how that performance is delivered. Oh. It's brutal. Unlike a traditional petrol car, that number isn't achieved with an aggressive launch and fiddling with all the settings to get the right powertrain and gearbox option. It's just press the pedal and go. It's brilliant. And that's one of the main advantages of an all-electric car. It just will pull and keep pulling every time. That shove in the back of your seat performance is something that was reserved previously for high performance supercars like Lamborghinis with big V12 engines. It's not something that you'd expect from a family runaround car.
The ride is what you'd expect from a Lexus too. Supple. Driving home after a long day is like sliding into a pair of pants made of fluffy marshmallows. Exactly as it should be.
And it handles well too. It's fantastic. For such a heavy car, the weight is so low down because all the batteries are underneath the floor. It really hides its weight well. You wouldn't think this car weighs 2 tons. One of the things that's so great about electric cars is the lack of a gearbox. When you put your foot down, there's no shuffling through the gears. It's just instant. We're doing 65 now. And we're at 100. Like that. There's a Tesla next to me.
And from a standing start, it absolutely demolishes this petrol RX 350, which is of a similar size and weight.
Comparing this to the old Lexus RX 350 from only a couple of years ago, this feels like the next generation of car. That feels so dated compared to this. The interior, the driving experience, there's nothing wrong with that. It's still very smooth and refined, but this just takes it to the next level. Driving a petrol-powered car after driving a high-powered EV like this feels like you're going back in time. It feels like you're holding the reins of a horse and cart. It just feels archaic. This is the future, and rightly so. Oh, Jesus. It doesn't get old. There's no way I'm going to meet the estimated range targets if I keep driving like this. Lexus's new cars have beautiful interiors. The design of this is no exception. Everything about it is pleasant. Everything's nice to look at, everything's nice to touch. Except the steering wheel, which feels like you're wearing latex gloves. All right, all done here. Nurse, if you just want to take that and close up for us, that'd be great, thank you. This car isn't fitted with the yoke steering wheel,
which is a steer-by-wire system. Tick that option and it means there's no direct mechanical connection to the wheels, like you'd find in a traditional car. What that means, unlike Tesla's stupid implementation,
is that you don't have to cross your arms or you don't have to turn the steering multiple times like this to get around a roundabout. It just feels like the future, especially where all steering is electric and barely connected to the tyres anyway. I wouldn't want to have these seats and this trim if I had children because they'd get their sticky fingers all over it. However, if it was just me or a partner, I think this is the one you'd want to have. This is a nice place to sit. I like the carpet on this car too, but it kind of reminds me of my grandfather's smoking lounge. Oh, well, Jeffrey, yes, I see the stocks are going down. You're quite right. Without a doubt, the coolest feature of this car is the frosted moonroof, which if you press this button, instantly transforms from opaque to clear. How cool is that, right? Absolutely fantastic, definitely. Oh, what the hell? The boot is big and there's definitely no compromise there. It can fit me, but there is no frunk, and I don't really understand that. You know, if other car manufacturers have built their electric platforms and are able to have space up the front, why haven't Lexus been able to? This gauge cluster is absolutely horrific. It looks so dated compared to the rest of this car. It's like they couldn't get the stock that they wanted, so they just threw this in. It works and it's very clear to read, but I just don't know what they were thinking. It makes the car feel dated already. It's like looking at an iPhone from 5 years ago.
But it gets worse, because if you select the lower grade of car, then the cluster is off-centered. If you have OCD, you may as well just shoot yourself in the face.
One thing I can't quite get my head around though is why the glove box doesn't exist. I would have thought that would have been a no-brainer in a car of this size. The driving range on this car isn't great, with about 400 kilometers without the air conditioning on. It lags behind its key competitors, and it definitely lags behind some of the long-range Teslas, which is disappointing. In saying that, Lexus do offer a program where you can borrow a car a couple of times a year for up to 8 days, so you can take a petrol-powered car if you're doing road trips around the country or around the state. I like that. But it would be nice if there was another 100 or 200 kilometers of range in this car, because as we all know from having phones, after time and after using them after a day in, day out, year after year, the batteries do degrade. Even if they're managed really well, like this one seems to be well engineered, it's still going to degrade.
And finally, it's not cheap. At nearly $150,000 for this sports luxury edition, it definitely doesn't sit in the same league as a Tesla, although it is a different class of luxury above.
The thing about this car is it's not showy. Yes, it's a striking design, it looks good in the inside and on the outside, but it doesn't show off in any way. There's no party mode, there's nothing to tell the world that you're in an electric car and this is different. It's a Lexus, and it doesn't need to have any more of a statement than that. A Lexus driver isn't the same as a Tesla driver, and I don't think the two cars would be cross-shopped against each other. If you were stepping from a normal Lexus, a petrol or a hybrid Lexus, into this car, this feels like the future. This feels like you're driving in the new world. If you're coming from something like a Tesla, this feels like you're stepping back a little bit into something that's more traditional.
Pause the video now if you want to see some key stats that I pulled together for the RZ's competitors. If you're buying your first electric car, especially one with less range like this, there is a real shift in mental behaviour. Staying with the phone analogy from before, when we all moved from Nokia phones that lasted a whole week on a single charge to a smartphone that needed to be charged every day, there were many people who bemoaned the change, demanding spare batteries, or who cried to anyone who would listen that the smartphone was a fad. But it wasn't. The technological leap was so far forward, so breathtakingly advanced, we all just got used to charging our phones daily. And that's the case for this next generation of BEV cars. There will still be those who complain, and their concerns around current charging infrastructure is well founded, but for 99% of people, 99% of the time, this car is enough. Enough to drive the Lexus owners from their home garages to their schools where they drop off their kids, to their nearby inner city workplace, and then out to their holiday house at the beach, all on a single charge. What Lexus have done here is given us a glimpse into their future. A comfortable, good-looking, quiet, relaxing car that drives in every way like a Lexus should, but with all the benefits of a BEV too. So I guess the only time you'll need to visit one of these is to cut through to avoid the traffic. Now that's a future I can get on board with.
Which, oh, button. Yeah. Yeah.